Welcome back to the deep dive. This is where we sift through the sources, we pull out the knowledge, and we try to give you the insights you need to be genuinely well-informed. Today, we're wrestling with a pretty high-stakes question. I mean, it applies everywhere. Boardrooms, team meetings, even, family dynamics. How do we really recognize and respect authority?
And more than that, what does it take to use that authority maturely?
Exactly.
We're taking a hard look at leadership character today. We're drawing from a really fascinating set of source materials, including some deep reflections on organizational behavior, but also some ancient wisdom literature, specifically principles from 2 Corinthians.
Okay.
And the whole deep dive really centers on this one crucial distinction that the Apostle Paul made about leadership. He said, "For the authority the Lord gave us is for building you up, not for tearing you down."
That is a phenomenal starting point.
Yeah.
So for the listener who might be, prepping for a tough negotiation or maybe just trying to figure out their supervisor's behavior, what's the mission for them here?
The goal of this deep dive is to unpack the source material's surprising and sometimes, frankly, painful conclusions about how personal character and maturity define the use of authority.
Okay, the use of it.
Right. And crucially, how that character affects the reception of that authority by other people. We're aiming to give you clarity on whether the leaders in your life or, maybe you yourself are prioritizing a title or prioritizing integrity.
Okay, let's get into this.
Yeah.
Because the sources, they start with an observation that just flies in the face of what most of us assume about what makes a good leader.
It's genuinely counterintuitive, yeah.
So what is it?
The pastor who first shared this, he was consistently surprised by a pattern he saw. When a leader steps forward and shows, profound patience, genuine love, true humility,
Good stuff.
all the good stuff, the community or the organization, the team, they often resist that leadership. They mistake kindness for weakness.
That's the shocking part. I mean, if you lead with empathy, with self-awareness, you should, in theory, be rewarded with respect, with loyalty.
You'd think so. But the sources show the opposite often happens. And the contrast is, well, it's stark.
Tell us about the contrast.
So the observation continues, and it notes this bizarre phenomenon. The successor, or maybe a leader in a parallel department, who behaves more like an autocrat.
A dictator.
Exactly, someone who manages aggressively, maybe even manipulatively, just ruling as they wish. That person isn't resisted. In fact, that forceful leader is often loved, praised, and followed by the very same group that rejected the humble one.
Wow. That just sounds like a fundamental flaw in human psychology, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's like we prefer tyranny to grace.
It's a painful paradox.
If you lead with strength and demand, you get compliance. If you lead with love and humility, you get pushed aside.
And the sources are quick to point out this isn't some new modern problem. They connect this dynamic directly back to how iconic figures throughout history, even Jesus Christ, were treated. People seem to demand visible strength, certainty, even if it's dictatorial, over gentle, patient guidance.
So here's where we make this relevant for you, the listener, in a modern workplace. Why do we in our companies, our nonprofits, why do we so consistently mistake genuine patience in a leader for managerial weakness? What's the hook here?
I think it points directly to how we evaluate power. We are culturally conditioned, by action movies, by dramatic political stories, to associate volume, aggression, and decisiveness with strength.
Right, the strong leader archetype.
Exactly. So when a leader shows true patience, or maybe they delay judgment to gather more facts, it often reads as indecision or a lack of conviction. And that perceptual mistake allows the more dictatorial style to prevail because it fits with our ingrained worldly perception of what powerful leadership is supposed to look like.
But wait, I'm struggling with that a bit. Because how is the humble leader supposed to win? If they try to earn respect gently, the organization thinks they're weak. If they act decisively, they risk getting labeled a tyrant.
It's a trap.
Doesn't this just prove that being a gentle leader is a career dead end?
That's the critical challenge, and the sources anticipate it perfectly. They argue that this perception, it's not a flaw in the leader's character. It's a flaw in the audience's framework.
So it's not them, it's us.
In a way, yes. The humble leader isn't weak. They're operating with a deeper, long-term wisdom that the immediate audience, especially an audience focused on short-term results, just cannot appreciate. The issue is trust and evaluation.
Okay, that sets up the historical precedent you mentioned from the sources this conflict Paul faced. It sounds like he was caught in the ultimate no-win scenario.
He was completely trapped. The sources detail how his opponents were just relentless. They accused him of not being a legitimate leader precisely because he refused to use his authority forcefully to prove his claims.
What was their logic?
It was simple. If he were a real authority, he would crush us. So his gentleness proves he has no real backing.
But then, what if he had given in to that pressure? If he did apply force, if he threatened them?
They would immediately pivot. They'd complain bitterly, call him cruel, ruthless, a tyrant. So he was condemned no matter what he did. If he was gentle, he was a fraud. If he was firm,
He was mean.
he was mean. It was just this constant cycle of intellectual and emotional criticism.
That pattern is exhausting. And you see it everywhere in organizations, right? Especially when a strong, decisive leader is replaced by someone who wants to focus on collaboration.
Yes, and what's fascinating here is the source's analysis of why this cycle keeps happening. It argues that this criticism emerges when people evaluate things using purely secular, short-term, or worldly standards. They lack what the source calls a principled mindset.
So if we translate principled mindset into a corporate context, what are we talking about?
We're talking about looking past the immediate drama, past the quarterly numbers. It means evaluating a leader not by how loudly they speak or how quickly they fire people, but by whether they are building something sustainable. Leaders who are judged by purely secular standards are only measured on surface metrics: charisma, stock price, immediate visibility.
And the sources warn that true authority has to stand on something much firmer than that.
Absolutely. True authority isn't derived from personality or rank. It has to be built on enduring organizational truth, on principle. If a company is willing to use its core mission, its ethical principles, as the foundation for how it handles its affairs, then it stands on solid ground.
Regardless of criticism.
Exactly. Without that foundational truth, the perception of authority is just. It's easily swayed by whatever the market values this week.
This brings us to the core definition of maturity, which is maybe the most actionable insight here. The sources state, pretty unequivocally, that a person's use of authority is the ultimate test of their character.
It's the metric that matters most in the long run, and we absolutely have to differentiate the mature from the immature use. The source gives a really clear contrast that I think it should be posted above every manager's desk.
Okay, give us the specifics. What's the distinction?
The immature use of authority is described as the swelling of the ego, self-inflation. Authority becomes a tool designed purely to promote and serve the self.
So it's about leveraging your title to increase your own standing, your influence.
Your own wealth, your own power.
Yes.
And the mature use.
It shifts the focus completely. The mature use brings growth and edification. It builds others up, just like that core principle we started with. The leader sees their authority as a resource to be deployed for the benefit of the team, not as a crown to be worn for self-admiration.
I really appreciate the analogy the source uses here, comparing wise leaders to wise parents. They know when to wait with love and when to decisively act.
That analogy highlights the true difficulty of mature leadership: timing. And the source points out a specific detail that I think is essential for any leader to internalize. It says waiting requires far more wisdom than striking or attacking.
Let's put a timestamp on that. Give us a real-world example of that wisdom of waiting.
Okay, think about a major organizational screw-up. A product launch fails, a massive data breach. The immature leader reacts immediately. They publicly blame the team lead to shift the external scrutiny away from themselves.
Right. They strike, and in that moment, they feel powerful, but they devastate team morale. They eliminate trust.
They transfer the suffering to their subordinate.
Exactly. But the mature leader, they know the value of waiting. They absorb that initial anxiety. They hold back their impulse to blame, and they wait for the full data set to understand the root cause.
And that waiting, that must take immense self-control.
Immense. And it often means the leader has to suffer the tension and the criticism internally for a little while.
Which really synthesizes that key principle. You earn respect, you don't demand it.
That is the headline takeaway. A mature person doesn't use their authority to demand respect just because of their job description. They earn it through their character, their patience, their wisdom.
So the mature leader suffers while waiting.
And the immature leader attacks rashly and causes others to suffer because of their recklessness.
Okay, so if maturity means holding back and earning respect, what happens when you're forced to act? When do these principles apply to something concrete, like a performance review, or managing real misconduct that threatens the whole organization?
This is where organizational integrity is truly tested. The sources address really high-stakes issues of misconduct, things like financial misappropriation, improper use of company funds, or serious ethical lapses. Infidelity, for example, which fundamentally undermines trust.
These are major breaches. You can't just handle those with patience and waiting. So how do they need to be managed, regardless of the person's rank?
They have to be managed according to the highest organizational principle: absolute truth, transparency, the letter of the law. The crucial point here is that if the company surrenders its core principles because the individual holds a powerful a senior partner, a high-ranking executive,
It's over.
it fundamentally loses its moral and operational stance.
If you protect the powerful person over the integrity of the code, you lose the trust of everyone else.
Precisely. And your employees, they lose sight of what integrity even means. Protecting the principle is always more important than protecting the person's rank.
But what about the other behaviors? The ones that are less about policy violation and more about organizational friction? That overbearing, bullying, self-inflating behavior we talked about?
That must also be curbed. The sources warn that behaviors rooted in pride and jealousy. They act like a toxic element. They cause conflict, disharmony, and they will inevitably destroy team unity. Leaders have to use wisdom in handling these conflicts.
And wisdom in this context does not mean compromise.
Absolutely not. Wisdom here means, first, clearly stating the organizational principles and the behavioral standards. Leaders have to avoid a kind of tolerance that leaves them without a firm position, because that just normalizes the bad behavior.
So the action is to state the principles clearly, calmly, truthfully.
Yes. And then, if the other party refuses to accept that standard or change their behavior, what then? Then, the leader has to understand that their immediate personal role in the discipline has ended. They've communicated the stance. Now they have to trust the organizational consequences, HR protocols, legal proceedings, whatever it is, to take effect.
So you don't keep fighting it personally.
You can't. Trying to enforce the outcome personally after you've stated the principle, that often just slips back into self-righteousness.
Okay, to bring this all together as we wrap up, the source material gives us a pretty clear two-part measure of successful leadership character. And it really applies to any career path.
That's a powerful summary. True character, the sources argue, is ultimately defined by being approved on stage, meaning you're successful in your public performance, and being respected off stage.
So maintaining high integrity and character in your private life.
That combination is what defines successful service and admirable character.
And for those of us who have any authority, minor or major, there's this final warning we have to internalize about the hidden danger of self-inflating power.
It is so essential. Before you decide to rebuke or correct or judge someone else, a colleague, a subordinate, the sources say you must spend adequate time in reflection, in honest self-assessment.
Why?
Because the ultimate danger is using the promise of speaking the truth in love as a cover for simple self-righteousness, emotional venting, or inflated language.
Why is that approach, which sounds so noble on paper, why is it so destructive in practice?
Because when we use our position for that kind of self-righteous emotional release, we, the leaders, suffer a derailing. We come off the rails. It often leads directly to negative consequences, like isolation. People can sense the hypocrisy. It just emphasizes the absolute need for humility and tolerance and principled behavior when you're dealing with colleagues, even in the most pressurized office environment.
That is a profound synthesis of how internal character informs external authority.
Yeah.
It really demands that we look inward before we exert power outward. So, here's the final provocative thought for you, the listener, to consider as you reflect on this deep dive. Considering your current role, or maybe your aspirations for leadership, do you primarily focus on activities that will lead you to earn respect? Through patience? Through wisdom? Or do you find yourself relying on your title and your position to demand it through force and visibility? Just think about the long-term impact of those two very different approaches.
We hope these insights help you build up those around you.
We'll catch you on the next deep dive.